All right, thanks for tuning in. Say, I read something recently that said lately more people are taking up the hobby of bird watching, and I thought, well, that's a great thing. That's something I've done for probably since I was a little kid. Was just get out and try to identify the different species of birds that are out there. It gets you into the outdoors, gets you in different places, and with that in mind, I thought we'd put together a little kind of a little game. I don't know, a contest or what, but we'll call this one Name That Bird. And what I've done is I've taken short videos just around the yard here within the last few weeks of different birds that visit the trees and the grass and the pond. And we'll see, name that bird, we'll see if we can identify these different birds. So what I've done, we'll see a short clip of the bird, and then when you hear this sound, that means the time is almost up. And if you haven't guessed what the bird is, it's probably a good time when you hear that sound to just kind of put the video on pause. And what you can do is maybe look at a book or look somewhere online to help you identify what that bird is if you don't know it yet. One thing I like to do when I'm out and about, it's called a field guide, but it's a book that has pictures of just about every bird in North America. It's a lot of different birds, even a little map on the side that tells you where you might find those birds. So that's something I bring when I'm out and about and I can't identify a bird as I go to my bird field guide. So with that, we will start with our first bird. Let's go. All right, the blue jay. Were you able to name that one? Yeah, that's a pretty common bird. It's actually real common throughout almost all of North America. You'll often find it traveling in small little groups, and those little groups are actually called a party or a band of blue jays. So that's kind of a cool thing. The male and the female blue jay are virtually identical. Blue jays are unique in that they don't just make that one call. We think of a blue jay that goes jay, jay, jay. Well, they've got about a dozen different calls. Sometimes they're clicks, sometimes they're whistles. One of their calls even sort of imitates a hawk. So if you got the blue jay right, good for you. Let's move on to the next bird. All right, the mallard. The mallard duck. If you said duck, well, you got it half right. The mallards that you saw there are actually male mallards. You could tell because of their bright green heads. The females are more brown and tan and mottled, so they're kind of camouflaged. They want to be hidden when they're sitting on their nest. But yeah, the beautiful green-headed mallards, they like to visit our pond here. Okay, did you get that one right? The northern cardinal. And did you see the little pointy feathers on its head? That's called a crest on the top of the cardinal's head. The cardinal we just saw there is a male cardinal. It's a brighter red color than the female. Very common. We often see them if you put seed out all winter long. They'll be around. You'll see a cardinal whether it's summer or winter. So it's a beautiful bird, the cardinal. We sure enjoy seeing them around here. Next bird. All right, you probably got that one right. The American robin, very popular bird. We often think of robins working, just walking over the ground looking for worms. But robins will eat insects, they'll eat berries, they'll eat a lot of things. They'll fly south in the winter. We won't see them during the winter, at least very rarely. And it's always a joy to see them when they come back in the spring. Now, let's go to the next bird. All right, Canada goose. Canada goose, in this case, Canada geese. Did you see that was a pair of them? And you really couldn't tell what was a male or what was a female. The coloring is so identical. We just love to see the Canada geese come back. They'll fly south. Most generally, they'll fly south unless they can find some food and some open water throughout the winter. But they'll get in a flock in the fall and fly south. And we just love when they come back in the spring. All right, the eastern bluebird. Wasn't that a pretty bird? That was a male. You could tell the male, it's got a brighter blue back. The female's pretty. It's got a little blue, but just not quite as bright as the male. They'll fly south every winter and come back in the spring, and they love to sit on a branch or a wire and look for a bug in the grass and go down and grab it and eat it themselves or bring it back to their nest. I found an old bluebird house that had fallen apart, and this spring I put it back together and put it on a pole, and sure enough the two bluebirds came and made a nest in it right away. So it was a real treat that I got bluebirds back this year. All right, how are you doing so far? Did you get that one right? The ringneck pheasant. It's a pretty bird. It's actually native of Asia. It wasn't introduced to North America till a little over 200 years ago. What we saw there, for the most part, was a male or a rooster pheasant. Did you see all the bright colors on that? There was actually a female or hen pheasant standing right next to it, but it was all brown and sort of spotted, really camouflaged well. But there was actually a hen a pheasant in that clip we just saw. All right, let's move on to the next bird. All right, wasn't that a nice one? A wood duck. That was a male wood duck or a drake wood duck. You can tell by its beautiful feathers. The female has a similar shape, but is mostly brown and tan. It likes to be camouflaged. Wood ducks generally will make a nest in a hollowed out area in a tree. It's popular and fun though to actually, if you look for plants, you can make your own wood duck house and put it out on a pond or near a pond, and if everything goes well, you'll have wood ducks nesting in it. Okay, on to the next bird. Wait a minute, that's not a bird, that's a squirrel. Okay, did you get that one right? The mourning dove. Not as colorful of a bird, but very common throughout almost all of North America, United States, down into Mexico, and many parts of Canada. The male and the female mourning dove look virtually the same. They'll nest in buildings. We've got some nesting in an old robin's nest right now. So they're a very common bird. They like to eat seeds and grain. Quite often will fly south in the winter. Okay, that's a bird that's not quite as common. The hooded merganser. What you saw there was a pair of them. The male was the more brightly colored of the two. They're kind of a shy little bird. They'll make their nest in a wood duck box if you put one out for them. Or in a hollow in a tree. They're actually called a diver duck. They'll dive under the water and catch little minnows and snails. Okay, so far we've looked at 10 different birds. How many have you identified correctly so far? Well, we're moving on to the bonus round. We've got two more birds to look at, and each of these will be worth 2 points. So let's have a look. Okay, belted kingfisher. That was a treat. That little guy came out of nowhere. I'd never seen him in the yard before, but sure enough, he showed up. What they like to do is sit on a branch over a body of water, and they'll wait until they see a minnow, little fish go by, and they'll dive in right after the fish with that long beak of theirs, and they scoop it right up. So it was a treat for us to see the belted kingfisher. All right, last and final bird. All right, the blue-winged teal. Yeah, that's a shy little duck. They just showed up a couple days ago. It's early May now, and I didn't know if I'd see any this year, and sure enough, a pair showed up. The male is what you saw. It's got that little bit of white on its face. That's how you identify it as the male. The female is not quite as bright. Both of them, though, when they take off in flight, by their name, they've got a little patch of blue on their wings. You can see it as they're flying away. So how did you do at identifying those birds? We saw 12 birds in total. Let's say the first 10 was worth a point each and the last two were worth 2 points each. That's a possible 14 total points. If you'd like, go ahead and post your score down below. And let me know too, this was just 12 birds. There's so many different species of birds. Should I do a kind of a what's that bird? Or name that bird 2.0. Should we keep going with that, or should we start doing critters? We could do trees. Let me know if this was fun, and we should keep going with this kind of format. Thanks for watching.